The conundrum that is Jack Bird. Is he a fullback? Is he a centre? Is he a 5'8"? Is he a second rower? Is he a lock forward? Is he a 14? Is he a utility forward off the bench? Or is he a reserve grader? Two questions. What would you do with Jack Bird? And what do you think Shane Flanagan will do with Jack Bird?
Talented player going through some injuries at the moment. Comes back home, won a premiership with the Sharks, so I think it's pretty obvious that Shane Flanagan rates Jack Bird, won a premiership at 5'8" with him. Where he plays could depend on the makeup of the team in other areas. I would say if Lomax plays fullback, Jack will be one of the players looked at to fill in the centres. Well, also, he could be looked at as a 5'8". Flano, it depends what Flano sees him. I would suggest he might not have the speed anymore to play centres, but still make it bustling centre. No one's really thought of putting him at 5'8". I mean, he would probably go very well at 5'8" as well, but really I don't see him playing at... I can see him as a lock forward, but only if Jack de Belin plays that front row. Ideally, I see him as a second rower, really. Probably a second row 5'8". That's where I'd be putting him. If he's not playing 5'8", probably be in the second row. But as I said, Flano might have other ideas. It pretty much depends on if Lomax goes to fullback or not, and who would take over the centres. But I would say full strength side, I'd say it'd be either 5'8" or second row for mine. And we all know that Flano rates Jack Bird.
Me personally, I'd slot Jack Bird in at 14. I think he's got the versatility to slot in pretty much anywhere, not just in the back line, but the forward pack. There's not too many roles that Jack Bird is incapable of playing. So I think that makes him the perfect utility off the bench. 9 might not be his preferred position, but I think we need to get to the stage where we're putting trust in a guy like Jacob Little to play that 80 minutes. And if he does get fatigued at any stage during a game or injured, we could bring Jack Bird on. He can go into 9, he could go into 6, and Kyle Flanagan can go into 9. There's a number of different options that we have with Bird as that utility forward. And best case scenario, he comes on and plays as a running forward, which I think is actually his best role. I think his best position is lock. That's where he plays his best footy, and that's where it's best for his knees too, I believe. I think that allows him to play a lot more straight up and down. There's none of this sort of lateral movement required, not as much lateral movement required. There's not as much footwork required. There's not as much dynamic movement full stop when you're playing in the middle of the field. It's very straight up and down. I think that's going to be much better for him physically with his knees. Yes, it's harder work. There's more tackles, more runs, more defence, all that sort of stuff that you've got to do. But the types of movements you have to do in the middle of the field are going to be different to what you have to do out wider. But I don't think that's what Shane Flanagan's going to do. Shane Flanagan, I get the impression that he still thinks that it's 2015 when it comes to Jack Bird. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to see Jack wind up in the centres or in the halves at some stage during the year. That seems to be the more likely path. That seems to be where all the communication is leading us. So I think Bird's best position is going to be either the 14 as a utility or back in reserve grade. If his knees aren't any good, he's talking at the moment about a brand new knee issue, something he's never had before. So his knees are completely stuffed. I don't know that he's got too much more to give. But I think he will be in the team somewhere. If he is in the team, I think he's going to be... I think he should be the 14, but I think Flano will have him playing somewhere in the back line, which I don't think is a good idea.
Since his arrival in 2021, he's really struggled to nail a place in this Dragons side. He's played 5'8", he's played centre, he's played back row, he's played lock, bit of fullback. He spent time on the bench, even spent time in New South Wales Cup. The question is, though, what is his best position? He's said already that he's preferred this year. He'd like to have a crack at centre or 5'8". Now Flano coached Bird when Cronulla won the premiership back in 2016, but Bird is nowhere near that player that he was back in 2016. He played State of Origin in those years as well, but he's had three knee reconstructions as well during his time at the Brisbane Broncos. He's not even half the player he was back then. In all honesty, I like the guy, but he can't run anymore. His NRL days really are behind him. Take it or leave it. That's just my opinion. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Dragons fans that will agree with me. There'll be some that will disagree with me. I think he's probably his best going back to playing for the Berkeley Eagles, his junior club, because I just think his NRL days are behind him. But Flano is a big fan of his. He's always had a lot of time with him, and I think somehow, somewhere, Flano will find a spot for him in the 17, and Flano will try and get the best out of him. Flano will give him training to get him up to scratch and what he needs to do to be that NRL player again. But again, where does he play? It's a tricky question. He can't run anymore. I really don't know where he plays. I think Flano may use him off the bench as because he can cover those positions. He's sort of like the Kurt Mann and Moses Mbye used to be for us. But yeah, it's a for me. I think Bird should be going back to playing in the Illawarra League, to be honest, because his NRL days are behind him. Unfortunately, great player. He was a great junior coming through, but sadly, his best days are behind him.